All right, so now we're recording, so this works. All right, so whenever you're ready, let me know, and I'll start off with the fun-filled intro.
I'm good to go.
All right, all right. So this is probably what everyone's been waiting for: our recap of every single Fast and Furious movie up to upcoming Fast 9.
Let's do
Um,
it.
as as always, this is Jorge from Team JVS.
And this is Keaton 7, with JVS.
Yep, yep. So we are going to be doing a jam-packed, hopefully in under 2 hours. That is, I'm hoping an hour and a half, but there's a lot of
Right.
movies here. But we just want to kind of go through all the movies, talk about our likes, dislikes, and then basically just key moments, like stuff that stuck with us throughout all the movies. I mean, this franchise has been going on now for 20 years, which is insane saying that out loud because, man, that makes me feel old right now. But yeah, so we just want to go through that all the way up to Fast 9, which is coming out at least here. Is it next week that it comes out in theaters?
Gosh, actually, I want to say
Ooh. Yeah, the 25th.
June 25th. Yep, that is.
Yeah.
Yep, it's coming up
So
soon. That's
yeah, so definitely here in a little bit. So I definitely just wanna make sure that you guys are up to date in case you're living under a rock and you don't know about any of this. We are here to guide you through this evolution.
there we go.
Um, so I guess let's just jump right into it.
All right.
Uh, Obviously, the year is 2001. I believe it was June because they always come out in June, just about.
Yep.
And we have the original Fast and Furious.
The Fast
Um,
and the Furious. Yes.
yes, and that is going to be key because the lingo here, the naming convention gets a little wonky.
Right.
So to start off, I guess quick. I'll do a quick little, hopefully 2 second synopsis here. You have a undercover cop who is trying to infiltrate, I guess, a rash of hijackings of semi trucks, if I recall
Right.
correctly,
Mm-hmm.
and gets involved with the wrong crowd and ends up finding out that that is his crowd.
Yeah.
And that does no justice to the movie, but that is the 10-second snippet of it. Um, and here you have a lot of beloved characters that are introduced that become a huge staple to this franchise. So, main characters obviously Vin Diesel. He is
Right.
kind of a staple. I want to say in every single movie he's been in it, one way or the
He wasn't in
in Too Fast.
Too
Yeah,
Fast, Too Furious.
that's right. So he's almost been in all of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah,
So
he's
we
been
have
on almost all of them, and he's like the big central character. Him and Paul Walker,
yep.
so Dominic Toretto and Brian O'Connor, um, are the definitely the main characters in them. And yeah, that first one, like you said, it's all about Brian O'Connor trying to infiltrate this racing world, trying to figure out who's hijacking these cars since they noticed that the cars were definitely souped up, uh, underground street racing type cars, Honda Civics. And so, yeah, he's trying to infiltrate it. And it's funny because I'm not going to lie, it does remind me a lot of Point Break. I love both of these movies, but
Yep.
when you really break it down, they definitely have their similarities. But I also thought they were really well done.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think this movie and it's funny because I remember when they started off making this movie, I believe the original title was Red Line or something like that. But this came from, for those of you in like the Northern Virginia area, basically a story that came out from the Maryland, D.C., Virginia area where people used to street race. It's kind of how this whole story came about,
Cool.
and it's really neat because some of the scenes and all that you can kind of tell that the places where they race look like some of the places down here in DC or Maryland where people used to street race all the time back when it wasn't such a huge ordeal. Something that I do find interesting is the foundation that this lays out, even though that they weren't even sure if this movie was going to be a success,
Yeah.
and the amount of work that they put in character development and kind of showing that Dominic Torero, like his main thing that he cares about is just family, and his family
Yeah,
is his bond, either it be blood or not blood. And to enter that, it's a very steep road
yeah,
basically. And you kind of see that throughout the movie. So I know for me it was one of the scenes that always kind of like perks up throughout the whole movie is you kind of see Dom is this almost anti-hero
oh
where
yeah,
he is kind of this bad guy, but when you put him involved with like other people, so you had Johnny Tran, who was this Asian actor who they own kind of like the Chinatown part of this community.
yeah,
And there were a couple ones. It was him. You had Hector, who he was going legit because he was going on the
yeah.
Naira circuit.
Yeah, he was with the Latino racers. Yeah, he was Hector, which never in a million years thought you'd come back and see him again, but he popped back
Yeah.
up. Like everybody ends up popping up. The only person I don't think they've brought back yet is my man Ja Rule. They haven't.
But you know what? He had one of the best memorable lines, which was
Oh
the
yeah,
"No, Monica."
oh yeah, it was great. It was absolutely great. But yeah, you're right. Like Dom is just this in every single movie in this franchise. Honestly, he's just like this powerful figure that everyone just seems to love. Because I one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when Brian brings in the Supra for them to fix up, and
Yeah,
Mia is talking to Brian afterwards, and she's like, "Oh, he owns you now." And then "Life Ain't a Game" by Ja Rule starts playing when they're
yeah,
bringing in all the parts, and I think I fell in love with that song in that scene. Like I don't even listen to a ton of Ja Rule, but I love that song so much. Which this was 19 years ago, 19, 20 years ago. That I
yeah.
can't believe the first Fast and Furious movie came out 20 years ago. And for perspective, if you watch the original trailer for the first Fast and Furious movie, Limp Bizkit is the music that plays during the trailer. My Way or the Highway.
That is true. Yes.
Yeah.
No. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
But you know what?
great.
What I find, and I'm huge into the car culture. Still been in it. What I find so fascinating is those cars that were in that movie at the time. Those were like the hottest of cars that you can think of, like the
Oh yeah.
Toyota Supra. You had a Skyline in the movie, even though it wasn't a main car. You had
Right.
the RX-7,
Yeah.
the Chargers, all these cars.
Mitsubishi Eclipse, like that was a big yeah.
Yeah, and if
Yeah.
you
Used to be a
look at
very
it,
big car.
it's almost come full circle because nowadays, if you go to a car meet, like yeah, you can have a brand new car, this or that, but if you roll up in a Skyline, if you roll up in an RX-7, in a Supra, that's where everyone goes to. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
just it's kind of for me it's kind of nice seeing that force, and it's obviously you can't predict it, but just how amazing it is that from this movie some of these cars have become cult classics now, where people like strive to get some of these cars. I know me specific, I recently just imported a Skyline just
Oh
because that's one of
man.
my one of my dream cars, and I
That's awesome.
finally got to do it, which is so neat because it came from these movies.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, it's like these movies have altered so much of how we do stuff. Something that I always thought was neat, which not many people know. So in this movie, they actually had two very huge influencers in the car scene. So Stefan Papadakis, he used to be, I guess, like the world record holder for like Honda Civics with what do you call it, racing in the drag strip.
Oh cool.
So from the racing side, he was a big part of this, and so was RJ De Vera. He was real big into like body kits, things like that. He had his own lineup, and both of those they actually starred in the movies. They had very small scenes, but it's really neat how when they kind of shot their shot with this, and how crazy it is thinking about it, that all these things, like it's almost like you pick the right people at the right time,
Oh yeah,
to start all of this.
yeah. And they did such a good job just bringing you into this racing world. Because I'm not gonna lie, like the first time that I watched these movies, I had never heard of Nos before. I'd never heard of it. I had no idea that they just had this jet fuel that they could put in tanks. And I don't know if it's been over exaggerated in the movies or what, but I just remember thinking, this is the coolest thing
Yeah.
in the world. Like my mind was blown. And then like when like some of the stunts that they pulled in the movie were so awesome, like the cars driving underneath the 18 wheelers because they were
Yes.
low. Like it was so many different awesome scenes in that movie that just stood out as iconic. You had race wars that was just out in the desert. I'm like, man, I want to see this. I want to go here.
Like,
Like, and it,
yes.
yeah. And I mean, it's just become so timeless. Like I remember it's set in LA. Someone went and found the Toretto house in GTA 5. Like they just went and found it like where it is in the city because they mapped it so well. Like it's everywhere. And as I love the fact that this franchise has lasted as long as it has, and it doesn't
Yes.
take itself too seriously, and they all have heart, and it's fun. It's really good fun. That's what I love about it.
No, I definitely agree. So with this movie, I guess what would be, and we'll just make it like one or two. What are like your top like one or two moments in this first Fast and Furious movie?
Oh gosh. So yeah, the one scene when he's like he owns you now and they're bringing in all the parts for that Supra. That I really really love that scene. And then also when Brian first shows up to save Toretto, when everyone is frantic and running from the cops in that
Yes.
first big in that first big racing scene. Out of all the people, Brian's the one to show up and help Toretto, and that's what kind of brings him into the unit. And the
Yep.
first time you get to really meet all these characters when they're chilling, they're just having this giant party back at their house. Like I love the way that everything got introduced because it showed you really well from that very first scene in the diner that Brian is just this complete outsider and no
Yeah.
one knows him, no one really cares about him at all. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, how do you get into the group? You save the best racer in the city, right?
Yep.
That's how you get in, right? And
Because
so
the Buster kept him out of handcuffs.
yes.
See, and okay, so for me, I think if I and this is gonna be difficult. So two most memorable scenes. One was the first drag race where Brian actually joins the fleet, and they I think at one point one of the guys are like, he can't just come in here and like box with the apes, and he
Yeah,
was
it
like,
was
and he
Jesse.
was
Yeah.
yeah, he was like,
Yeah.
oh, I can box, you could ask him. And he lines up and you see them like all lining up perfectly, and then he just like
He goes
scoots a
fast.
foot forward. So
He has
that
to
one has
reverse it.
always,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like that one has always been a classic. And then
Yeah.
once they're done with the Supra and they start, kind of like driving around testing it, and they pull up next to the Ferrari, and just very cleanly he's like, oh, what's the retail on one of those? And the guy's like, more than you can afford. And just the way Dom just like closes the laptop and he's like, smoke him. It
Yeah.
was just like game over. I was like, you had me there.
Like, no, he did
um
not.
yeah, so this one, I think was awesome. Obviously this one is ranks up there for me. And then this moves very, smoothly over to the second one, which is Too Fast, Too Furious, and that one came
Yeah.
out. Oh God, I think it was like 2 years later. I think in two
Yeah, it was
thousand.
2 years later.
Yeah, it's like
2003.
2003.
Now,
Um,
here's something interesting about that because I remember seeing it in the movie theaters and loving it. But what I didn't realize is so Too Fast, Too Furious, I remember it being the very first DVD that I owned. It was my very first DVD. It was the movie that switched me from VHS to DVD. Like, and I we had, I had gone to like Blockbuster or something, and they had like the buy. It's like the buy three for a deal,
Yep.
and the three movies that I got were Too Fast, Too Furious, the first Hulk movie, and Daredevil. Those are my first three DVDs. I've come a long way, but one of the things that was on that DVD though that I didn't realize was a thing was there was a prequel to Too
Yep.
Fast Too Furious that bridged those two, the first movie and the second movie together, and it kind of showed you how Brian, because they relocate to Miami for this one, they
Yep.
show how he went from LA to Miami, and he's just going through all these street races all along the way. I thought that was the coolest thing.
Yeah, and that one I believe was called the turbocharged prelude for Too Fast, Too Furious.
Hmm.
Because that kind of showed him how he got his skyline, how it was all busted up, and then he fixed it up, and then just randomly showed up, obviously in the race. But what are your thoughts on Too Fast, Too Furious? Because I know for me, this is one of those that when it first came out, it had such a different tone to it that at
Yeah.
first I was like, oh, this is gonna ruin it. But what I found, best of all is that comedic, I guess, banter that was in this movie is almost like what's the comedic banter throughout the rest of this series. And it's almost like the
Yeah.
Tyrese, love him or hate him, that dude has done such a great job in
Oh
this. Like
God,
he
I love me
his
some Roman Pierce. I do.
yes, and just like the one of like we ain't hungry no more. Like at the end of the
When he
movie,
lifts his shirt, and he has all the
yes,
money. Yes.
like it's
Yes.
just he is like he was such a perfect cast for this, and then
He
adding
was.
Ludacris to it, which at first I'm like, oh, like Ludacris. And in my head, I'm like, they're just gonna pick a new rapper for each movie and just kind of like that'll
Yeah.
be the thing. But interesting, like he also molded into this a great like I think this, if I recall, this was his first real acting movie because this kind of lifted him up
Right.
into a couple other ones if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I'm sitting here trying to think. I don't really remember him being in a lot of other movies because I mean he had like one of the big tracks on Too Fast Too Furious, the soundtrack.
Yep.
He had what was it? Was it
Move.
Active Move? Yeah.
Oh no, that's right. It was Act
Was
the
it Act of
Fool.
Fool? It was Act of Fool, which is funny because in the first movie, a lot of people don't realize it, but area codes plays really quickly in the very first movie when they're at the house, when they're transitioning from the big party
Yeah.
to when he's talking to Mia in the kitchen, that it plays area codes just for like a split second. I just
No,
remember
you're
that.
right. And
Yeah.
I did not even think about that, but no, you're 100% right on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember hearing that because I think Area Codes was on the Rush Hour 2 soundtrack. And so all those movies were like there together. But what's so interesting about Ludacris's character is how much they end up changing him throughout the series into the tech guy. And it's
Yes.
something that you don't really see beforehand. And because in this movie, he's just like this cool, laid back dude that kind of just runs the whole scene. He almost kind of reminded me of the a more charismatic Hector
Yeah.
uh, in this one because you didn't really see him race. He was just like, I'm out of the game, but I'm hustling and
Yeah.
yeah, and he's cool. And then so yeah, you have him, you have Tyrese, and so this movie had a very different feel. It was a much it wasn't nearly as dark as the first one, even though it had its serious moments because they're going undercover after what's his name? Carter Verone.
Yes.
He's like this drug dealer and there's an undercover agent, Eva Mendes, which I'm surprised they haven't brought her back
which
yet.
is yeah, this and it's hilarious. Like you start looking at all these random people who have been in all these movies, and there are some crazy like people in this. Like the more I think about this franchise, I'm just like, holy smokes! Like this, I forgot that Eva Mendes was even in this movie
And
until you mentioned that.
I just remember they did bring her back for one scene. It was at the end of Fast and Furious 6, or it might have been at the end of Fast 5.
Oh, that's
Uh
right. When after the
she
whole
walks
Letty
in
thing,
to
right?
show that like Letty's still alive or
Yep,
something. So
that
yep, and
is true.
she
So they really haven't brought her back.
yeah,
That'll be
yeah.
well. There's always nine. We have hope still.
There's no telling. There's no telling. But yeah, Too Fast, Too Furious. Like it was very interesting because Brian's basically on the run, and he basically immediately gets caught because it's like you're a cop on the lam street
Yep.
racing all the way across the country. Like you're gonna get caught, dude. Like street racing in blocked streets in Miami. Like, come on. Like if you really want to run away to like Rocky Mount. Like, come on, something
Yeah.
like that. Like,
Like lay low, lay real
right.
low.
He did not lay low at all. Like every single person was like, "Man, who is this guy from LA that's beating everybody in street racing? Who could it
Yeah.
be?" Like he didn't
No,
play
that
that
that is
smart.
true.
He didn't play that smart, but it was a lot of fun, and it was because uh, Tyrese he really brought a lot of fun to that whole series.
Yeah, and this one was interesting too because they a few little like hidden known facts. So the Eclipse, and I'm trying to remember this correctly, the Eclipse that Tyrese drove in this movie, technically he was supposed to drive another car, and he didn't like it or he didn't think it was like good enough. So
Hmm.
that Eclipse, I believe he fronted all the money to make that Eclipse.
The
So
purple, the
I'm
purple
like,
convertible.
yeah.
Nice.
So that was his own doing. I know the Lancer, like the Evo that Brian had, obviously that one was part of the movie. But yeah, because I remember reading that. This movie was also one of the first movies that I vividly remember that the soundtrack changed from the theater to the DVD,
Really.
um, which threw me off. Yeah, so in near the one of the last scenes, which is probably one of my favorite scenes in most of the Fast and Furious movies, where they're running away from the cops and they hide in that ginormous like garage where all the other
Hmm.
racers are. In the theatrical release, when they actually open up the garage and all the cars pop out, the song that was playing there is totally different than what happened in the DVD.
Really.
Um, when it came home, yeah, because I remember, I wish I remember what song it was because I used to love that song, and I know I kind of the same thing when I got the DVD. That was one of the first scenes that I just kind of like jumped
Huh.
to, and when it came out, I was like, "Hold up!" I'm like, that's not the right song. And at first, I was like, "Do I have a bad DVD?" And then other buddies of mine had the same thing, and I was like, "Oh," I'm
Checking
like,
to see if you had a bootleg.
yeah, I was like, they changed it. They changed it. No, but this one I thought was neat because you start kind of. I think the evolution of like crazy car stunts. You kind of start seeing more and more evolve here.
Hmm.
Because this one also had like when they did that huge race down the highway and they had the one Camaro. Was it the Camaro or the Viper that basically got sucked under? No, it was the Camaro, or I'm sorry, the Mustang, the
It was a
Mustang Cobra that
Mustang.
got sucked
Oh,
under
they got
the
sucked under
semi.
the 18 wheeler. That was
Yup,
rough.
we had that
Oof.
one. You had Brian doing like the backwards driving down the highway for a little bit. Um, the one thing that I thought was neat on this one is they had some exotic cars in this movie, but they didn't highlight them. So, for example, like the
Yeah.
Dodge Viper, um, the two, like at the beginning, the two muscle cars that they
That they
ended up
win.
racing for,
Yeah.
yeah, that they ended up winning. You would think that some of those cars would have a higher impact, in these movies, but it definitely, for me, it was nice that they kept it I don't want to say affordable, but it's like the main hero cars were things that were attainable to the normal Joe Blow,
Yeah,
um, which
yeah,
I
that's
thought
true.
was just such a nice touch. Because usually, like you look at James Bond or any of these like 007, it's like an
Oh
Austin
yeah,
Martin, and
Ferraris, Aston Martins,
yes,
Lamborghinis. Like it's
and for me
something
it's like
that's just no one's out. No, it's beyond the standard person's means by far.
yes,
And then you see this, and it's like, there's hope for me yet.
yeah, no,
Because
it's
I
like oh
remember, yeah,
it's like
because
oh
I
he has a
was
little eclipse, I can get an eclipse. And I
right.
think it's a lot of people bash these movies for kind of what they've done to the car culture, but at the same time these movies have elevated and progressed the car
They
culture
really have.
so much,
They really have. Yeah,
um, which I've for me just following it's just been always been fun. But this one, for me, I it, and I think we were talking about it before we jumped on here, how you were saying each one of these movies kind of start taking a different almost genre per
right.
se. Because this
Yeah.
one, I think you were saying was the more like comedic role, where you kind of
Oh
see it
yeah.
and you're like, oh. But you look at the first one, it's definitely a more serious type of drama per se, because you have
Yeah.
all
It was
these
like more.
undertones behind it.
Yeah, it was more. The first one was definitely more of an action drama,
Yes.
because it was so much more of an undercover movie. Like he was trying not to blow his cover this whole time, and then like yeah, it was dramatic. Like there was some moments that you laugh, but it wasn't like the second one. The second one just was straight up an action comedy. Like
Yes.
Tyrese had me in stitches a lot during that movie. Like he was wilding. Um,
Yes.
and then moving on to the third one's just a complete shift. I mean, fish out of water story, which one of the things I really, really like about this franchise is they switch cities. Almost every movie,
Yes.
they switch cities, which is something that's pretty cool. But it's also funny when you laugh because whenever they finally did make it to New York, I'm like, dude, no one's racing through those cities like that. Like the traffic is way too horrible. Like
Yes.
there's no way anyone's
No,
racing
but
through there.
oh, that is yeah.
But
So then
yeah.
with this one, before we jump over to number three, what were some of your standout moments for this movie?
Um my standouts for this one honestly were I remember just whenever when we meet Roman Pierce and he's just angry at the world. Like he's angry at Brian, he's angry at his situation, and the first thing he does when he meets Carter Verone is he steals his cigar cutter.
Yes.
Like right off the bat, like not even thinking about it. It's like screw this rich dude. I'ma steal
Yep.
his stuff like right now. Like I love that scene, and then I also loved the garage scene when like all of these cars rush out of this giant garage. I'm like, man, they really put in the wrench time shooting that scene. Like it
Yeah.
was really well done.
Yeah. No, I think for me, I think once they caught Brian, and they're asking him to like go undercover with one of the random agents there who was like just drinking the drink, and he was like, well, let me ask you, he's like, in the skyline, what motor will work better, the Gallo 12 or Gallo 24? And the
Yeah.
guy's just like, the 24, of course. And he's like, oh, I didn't know pizza chains made
Oh yeah, that was
motors.
good.
And then that's
Yeah.
where he gets introduced to Roman. But it's like little caveats like that were good. That one, and then yeah, I think for me it's also that last garage scene where all those cars are coming out, and you see. I think something which I enjoy with most of these movies is they kind of give everybody a little flavor. So
Yeah.
in the garage scene, when the first cars to come out are the big four wheelers, like the big pickup trucks, lifted, all that. And then you see all these imports and all this stuff, and then even
Yeah.
like the muscle cars. So I've always enjoyed that it's not they don't just stick to like one pigeonhole and they're like, okay, we're just going to do this. Like they literally use every car you can imagine.
Yeah, they do. And they get more and more, they start getting more and more exotic in the later movies, but even then it's like they always make their rounds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because they really set up in these, especially in these first like four movies, I feel like they always set up import versus American muscle. That's what it
Yep.
always ends up being. Like it seems like import versus America, because they have to race those two guys in their, and they had the two guys they raced had muscle cars and they had imports, and then
Yep.
and then the next one, uh they he's racing the Supra against Dom's car, and then it
Yep.
gets hit by the train. Like, and even in the third one, at the end of it, you have the Mustang,
Yep.
right, against the, what is it, 350Z.
350Z. Yep.
Yeah, and so it's always like American muscle versus import.
Which is, I mean, it's funny because that's also one of the, I know for like drag racing, that's still to this day one of the biggest events where they have imports versus domestics, and it's just it wows me when you see these, old school like Mustang Camaros that are just, huge supercharger coming out the like it's basically just like the movie. Like you have
Yeah,
your typical Doms and then you have your typical Bryans that have, like
yeah.
little, pocket rockets over here. Um but no, so then yeah, so let's move on to the third one, which is, a lot of people kind of see this one as like the redheaded stepchild, and I've always enjoyed this movie to the max. But this one is Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift,
Right.
um, and this one is, I mean, this one I think stars basically all new cast, if I recall
Hmm.
correctly. I don't think there's
Yeah.
there's no one in like they do have one cameo. So ready, we'll do it now. Spoiler alert. They do have one. I think Vin Diesel is the only person who does a cameo at the end of it. Because other than that, everyone else in this one is completely brand new.
Yeah,
Um,
I think he's the only one because, yeah, I think he's it because they bring in Lucas Black as Sean Boswell, and he's the new protagonist in this. So they've cut
yeah.
away from Dom, they've cut away from Brian, and they're like, all right, now here's our new main character. And I think that was one reason that people were kind of rough around the edges towards it, because everyone fell in love with Brian O'Connor, and they want to see what he's up to, or they want to see what Vin
Yep.
Diesel's up to. And then they go a completely different route with this, and they're like, you know what, we're gonna go to Tokyo, which is
Yeah.
it was really cool because I honestly was rather ignorant about how much racing was going on in the rest of the world and how they did things. Like, I'd never heard of drift racing until this movie.
Oh man, you've been missing out. I still
Yeah, man.
remember in the early '90s. They used to have this drift toge battles over in Japan, and I remember like buying for a ridiculous amount of money like VHS tapes that were just bootlegs of these people straight up drifting down these mountain ways. So just kind of like the last scene of the movie, and you'll
Yeah.
see them just, like you have your lead car and a chase, and they're just drifting. So it's, yeah, this movie, and I think maybe that's why I enjoyed it, because this one, I think after this or before this came out, I finished watching Initial D, which is a huge anime, all about drifting. And this kind of came right with it, and I was just like, I love drifting. Like this
Man,
was the
it's
best thing ever.
it's so funny you say that. Like, I last week, there's an arcade here in Greenville, and he has an Initial D machine, and I was like playing Initial D. I had Yeah, I was actually playing. Man, it was a lot of fun. It's a fun game. I'd never played it before, and I probably played it for about 3 hours uh
Oh gosh.
last week. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I had no idea. The only and my first thought when watching it was, man, this got to be expensive. Like, that's a lot of tires you got to replace.
See, in this one, the cool thing of this movie, so the scene where Sean starts learning how to drift, and he has that eclipse. They show two Asian men like at the pier, and I think they're like
The
either eating
fishermen.
lunch or something. Yeah,
They're
the
fishing.
fishermen.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
those two fishermen are who invented drifting.
Yeah, so I did find that out later on in like one of the making of featurettes or something that like
Yeah.
they were like cameoing like cuz he even makes a comment, one of them makes a comment like not bad or he's getting better. Like he says something like that one that when Sean's really learning.
Yeah. But no, so yeah, so that one was always like a fun one because I remember when I first saw that in the theaters and I saw them two, I was just blown away because I'm like, what? Oh, wait a minute, Sam's joining this conversation now.
Oh,
There we
Hey,
go.
the
what's up,
chief.
There we,
gang?
How's it
what
going,
is
Dad?
going on?
Ah, man, it's going, dude.
So we are actually just on number three right now, just to give you a heads up.
Oh,
So
wow.
we are doing well, way behind schedule, but having
Oh
fun.
yeah. Oh yeah, we're going in though. We're going in. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, we're sitting here, we were getting ready to break down the third movie. And one of the things we were talking about before was how different the first three movies are because the first one's more of an action drama, the second one's more of an action comedy, and then this third one is more of a drama, but it's also more of a fish out of water
Yeah.
story. It's
Yeah, it
definitely
is.
a fish out of water story because you got this kid coming in that just like wrecked everything here in the States. And so he goes to move in with his dad, who I guess is military, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
And so he moves in there, and then the very first thing he does, he's like, all right, I've learned nothing from my past mistakes. I'm going right back to the car seat.
Yes.
And yeah, and that's when you meet honestly one of my favorite characters in this entire series. You meet Han.
Yeah.
Uh and God, he's just the absolute best. He's too cool for school. He is just the man in every way. Uh
No,
yeah.
definitely agree. And so here's a hidden, not a hidden known fact, but I think Justin, because the director of this movie is, if I recall
Justin Lin.
correctly, it's Justin Lin.
Hmm.
So Justin Lin directed a movie like before the Fast and Furious franchise came out called Better Luck Tomorrow,
Mhm.
and Han is in that movie playing Han, which
Cool.
I thought was hilarious. And when you kind of see the storyline of Han in that movie, it matches up. So the big kind of like, kind of like secret thing is that it's the same character moving throughout, from Better Luck Tomorrow straight into the Fast and Furious franchise,
Cool.
which is really neat. And Justin Lin also directed that one, and I've always found that story arc interesting, and especially because you know if you haven't seen Better Luck Tomorrow, phenomenal movie, just completely out of this world. Like it's awesome, very out there, but super cool. But yeah, that's there. There's Han.
I haven't seen it, but I do want to check it out. I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, but it's this movie I find so neat because this one also brings back the RX-7 into the franchise, which becomes the other kind of poster child. Only his RX-7 had the full like Velicide kit on it, which is
It was such a different kit. Like
yes,
I could hardly tell it was an RX-7. Like I was trying to figure out what car it was, and someone told me it was an RX-7, and I figured it out once they told me. But because looking at this body kit, it's out of this world.
yep. It is probably one of the most recognizable, like when you talk about a kit car, like this is usually what pops into my mind, because it's most cars you put a body kit on it and you can still kind of tell what it is, but when you look at this you're just what is this,
Yeah.
like it was just so far ahead of its time. But you know, this movie also, especially in the terms of kind of what you were saying earlier with the imports versus domestic, this plays way into that, especially, in the last scenes. The part which I find, interesting, which is almost like, homage to Japan and all that, is like, yes, you have this more than classic American muscle car, but yet you put in it the motor of the best kind of one of the best motors to come out of Japan, which is the RB, motors from a Skyline, is what goes into that car. Which for me, I'm like, it's just so batty that someone even thought about that. Like, just to put it plain and simple, just to
Oh
even
yeah,
think about that, it's
I'm
phenomenal.
sure. I'm sure it hurts some feelings too, though.
I 100% on both sides,
Oh yeah.
because both sides would be that way. But this movie, something that once again, I enjoyed. This was, I think, the 350Z's like its
Hmm.
coming out party, and
Yeah.
once again, it goes back to they still had affordable cars that anybody could afford and pick up, which for me it's just continuing that same progression, which I love. This one also had awesome, I think one of the most memorable scenes in this movie was when they were, I guess, they had like a huge chase scene between it was Sean Han's character, and I
Hmm.
forget, I always forget who the bad guy is in this movie, the Yakuza's like the son of
It's about
the,
DK.
yeah, DK. Thank you.
Yeah, and his
Um,
his uncle was Sonny Chiba.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
Hattori
So
Hanzo, our boy. Like, yeah.
yes, so they had that scene where they're racing, and then it's that famous crosswalk in Tokyo when they start doing that full blown drift,
Ooh, that
and you
was
see
epic.
everyone just kind of like stepping away from it. I don't know how they did that. I don't know how much CGI went into that, or how they choreographed, but that scene was so iconic to me. It's that one, and then when it's what is it? Is this the one that had Bow Wow in it?
Yep.
Yes. So when they're kind of going and picking out cars, and finally you see his little like Hulk machine come out, and they end up going to that
Oh man, yes, because they played grits when they found this. Cause like my life be like
like
ooh,
ooh
Ooh,
yeah.
I
As
lost
soon
it.
as
I'm like, oh my Christian rap, we in it, baby. Like,
no, yes, no. As soon as they enter that garage, and that was such like for me such an iconic scene, because that's kind of like I still like, shoot, even to today I still go to car meets, and some of them are in parking garages, and it's hilarious because you look at some stuff like this and you're like, man, like this still happens today,
that's
same
crazy.
type of setup and all that. So it's, yeah, this one was for sure a fun one.
and the thing that really sticks out to me about this one, this was the first one in the series that Brian Tyler came in and did the score, and the music for this one was just, it blew my mind. I really loved the music. One of the main tracks is called Needle Drifts. It's when Sean is riding with the main female in the movie, and
Yes.
they're drifting down the mountain. Uh, and I remember just loving that music and going and finding it and buying it like right then, because I was like, man, this is awesome. I really love the music for this one. Really stuck out to me, that one. And then I can't remember the name of the track that plays, but it's when Han's talking to Sean and he's basically telling him like, when the bad guys try and make a run for the border, he's like, this is my Mexico. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
this is when the first time you're like, man, I want to know all about this Han guy, because at this moment we don't even realize that this is set way after a lot of the events in
Yep.
the movies that are coming up.
Yep.
And I remember really loving the music in that scene. And then of course, I got introduced at the end when they bring in Vin Diesel. I got introduced to Don Omar, That song Bandoleros, I love that song. Like that's a good cruising song. It really is. It's I really loved the music for Tokyo Drift. And I remember being in the theater, and when this scene popped up, I went nuts.
I think everyone went nuts on this because it's one of those things where no one was expecting it at all. Because you go throughout the whole movie and you're kind of enjoying it and all this. And I remember even for me, like halfway through the movie, I was just like, man, I'm like, this is Fast and Furious, but like Brian's not in it, Dom's not in, like, no one's in. I'm like, but okay, I was like, I'm still going with it. And the movie kind of ends, and you're kind of like, oh, they really aren't gonna, like, no one's showing up, and you just see that old school muscle car.
Disappointment.
Yeah. So this one was definitely a classic for me, and this scene especially, was awesome. And I was Sam, I you weren't here earlier, but I was saying, so this scene, the whole reason this came about was because during negotiations, what's his name? Vin Diesel didn't want to show up in this movie. And the way he negotiated it was he got the full rights to Pitch Black. To be able to, and they, I guess throughout the contracts, figured out a way, and they were like, fine, you can get that, but you got to appear in the Fast and Furious movie. And then there he goes.
It's honestly one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie because I never forget, me and my friend Ashley, we went to see that movie in the theater, and it was like a late show. And I kept joking throughout the whole movie. I'm like, Vin Diesel would have never done that. Oh, he would not have wrecked that car. Vin Diesel would have killed him. Vin Diesel would have, like, the whole movie, I was just almost like trolling a little bit, just saying that. And at the very end, when he popped up, we both just busted out laughing.
Yep. No, this one was a fun one. And this one, I guess kind of to lead into almost like segue into the next one. So this kind of this was the first one that kind of opened us up to, Fast and Furious being worldwide. Because the first one obviously was California. Second one was all Mexico, or not Mexico, but Florida. Yeah. And now this one, you're all the way in Tokyo. Which then, now with this fourth one brings us to, I believe this one was set in Mexico. And this one was my least favorite one out of all of them. If I had one that I did not like, I would say this is the one that's most forgettable for me. The only thing that I did like about this one was that it introduced Don Omar character and also Tego Calderon, which, both of them are huge rappers in the Latin community, which I've, grew up listening to. Like here in America, a lot of people, listen to like Pitbull and all that, and these were the guys that I was rocking out to back in the day.
They also introduced Gal Gadot's character.
I was gonna say that was exactly what I was going next, and I was like, and they introduced Gal Gadot, which is not too shabby at all. But this one also, you kind of get the whole gang back together.
Yeah.
Dominic, comes back.
Bring in people too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is the first one. Yep. Actually, no. You know what? Still going through every single movie, they bring in a new rapper every single movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Because even in Too Fast, Too Furious, like, yes, you had Ludacris, but the other like sneak away rapper in there was Jin.
Yeah, you had Jin. Because I remember, man, Jin went on a streak on 106 and Park for Freestyle Friday.
He did.
He was
bodying people. I remember that.
Yes. No, that's so this is okay. So not only do we still have, we're going to new places, but we always introduce a new rapper. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. So this one, like I said, for me, it's probably the most forgettable. Just because, it just is for me. This one didn't do it.
I am so glad I jumped in for this.
So is this your favorite?
Because all right. So
I'm ready to.
So hold on. All right. So so first off, going back to Tokyo Drift because I stayed quiet the whole entire time. Um, I love Tokyo Drift. I really
Yes.
did love it because when I went to it, I was like, okay, Too Fast and Furious was funny, but was it a good successor to the first Fast and Furious? Not necessarily. Would I love to see the characters again? Yes. But it does look like I'm getting the characters again. I'm getting this brand new director. Okay, I'm going to accept that this is a new, process in this franchise. Like, I'm just going to be like, okay, this is just what it is. I accepted it. By the end of the movie, I accepted it. And then all of a sudden, when Van Diesel showed up, I was like, whoa, hold on. This connected? What does this
Yeah.
mean?
Yes, that's what
And
exactly.
I was in the theater freaking out. And that's when
Yes.
I was like,
Yes.
I like Tokyo Drift as a film alone. But
Yeah.
when it decided, yeah, we're gonna connect all this, that was when okay, you won me. You won me. You
Yeah.
won. And
Right.
so
Exactly.
for this film right here, right? I remember seeing the first trailer, and the first trailer I believe it had the chase scene with Brian as an FBI agent, and all of a sudden he's having to hunt down Dom. And I was like, wait. So you telling me I'm getting my old school OGs back?
Right.
Not only is Brian now an FBI agent, but Dom is on the run and more dangerous than ever because somebody has freaking possibly killed Letty.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's it. Like
Yeah.
you
We
at
in.
that point, I'm
We
already.
in it.
I'm you pulled me in. It
You
doesn't
had
matter
me at
if we
hello.
go. We could have went to Australia. You got the whole crew back,
Yeah.
and you got more power behind everybody's character arc. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, I was like, okay, cool. You introduce new interesting characters. You building out and fleshing out the world, but the stakes are being raised because the importance behind both these two characters are even higher than they were before. Not just that, they never resolved their differences.
Right.
Like I was like, Dom honestly could kill Brian.
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, was he right for doing that? Possibly. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But Brian did let him go. So it's like, what is that level of respect for an FBI agent versus somebody that is a convicted felon? So I love this film, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. I can look at it, I can put this on right now and watch it from beginning to end because it just reintroduced me back to the Fast and Furious that I missed. Not only did it have races in it, but it was like, okay, this is gonna open up a brand new world. Because a lot of people like talk about Fast Five, like, oh, Fast Five introduced Rock and all this kind of stuff. But like, I was like at the end of this movie, I was like, yo, hold on. What is really going on? What is about to happen next? Because you remember that is this the one where the breakout scene happened? Where they had to where Brian went AWOL and Mia both of them
It happens
broke
at
him
the
out.
very end. It happens at
Yes.
the very end of this one.
Yes,
Because
and I
that's
was
when they-
like,
yeah.
I was freaking out in the theater. I was kind of
Oh, yeah.
like, oh, you really judge? You sit there and not gonna pardon this man? You're not gonna give him something, some kind of leniency? I was like, yo, Brian, just quit, bro. Break him out. Break him out. I even said it there. I was like, break this dude out. And when I saw Mia on her whip and I saw Brian on the whip, I was like, let's go. I love this movie. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I know you feel away, but
No. Well, one thing I was also gonna say.
Scene, yeah, and that last scene was dope because that was the first time. And see, that's where they introduced another Japanese classic, the NSX, because that's what Mia was driving.
Beautiful car.
Yeah. Oh God, yes.
Car. I love
So-
it. Also, it lets you know too. The beginning of this one lets you know immediately that this is a prequel. This happened before the events of Tokyo Drift because Han is running with Dom.
Yep.
At the beginning of this one, because at the end of Tokyo Drift, he's like, "I want it from my friend Han." And it's like, okay, that feels a little bit forced, but they're like, "No, he's for real. He's for real." Because at the beginning of this one, Han is like helping them steal gasoline and stuff.
Yes.
And God, what an absolutely insane sequence!
And
that
whole scene was, I think that was one of the first car scenes that you kind of start looking at it, because all the other ones with like the drag racing and all that, you're like, okay, like drifting, I get it, like people can do that. But this was one of the first ones where I was just like, holy, like just to think about it, like getting those pickup trucks, having them do like straight up J turns and going backwards, clipping into the truck, freezing the lock, breaking it, going like
Right.
it was so well done. Like,
Oh yeah.
and then when I guess when that last tanker starts flipping and you just see Dom like burning out the tires on his Charger, just kind of timing it perfect. So this one does have iconic things. So don't take my hate for this movie as like I didn't enjoy it, because I enjoy all of them. But yeah, like see, yeah, like look at those things. Like that's just so boss right there.
Oh yeah.
Ugh.
Another thing too, Brian Tyler
I'm
came
gonna
back.
ask y'all a question, both of you guys. What did y'all think was gonna happen if Mia didn't show up? Like, in all honesty, like this fight went down, and I knew Brown was trying to subdue Dom. He wasn't trying to kill Dom, but Dom was trying to go for blows.
Oh,
Dom did not care. He was about to kill Brian. Um, when this fight happened in the theaters, how did you feel? I was curious. Y'all's feelings.
so I legit thought that one of two things was going to happen. Either this was going to be Brian's last scene in the movie, or he was going to pull out a gun and like shoot him in the leg or something. Like something. One of the two was going to end up catastrophically injured. But this was also like, at least for me, I think this was the last movie that Fast and Furious did where they didn't show all their cards in the trailers. Because this one, like, yeah, because after this one,
Because all we knew that Letty died. That's all we
yeah,
knew.
and they kept everything so under wraps, which was awesome. But no, this one, yeah, I was not a fan of when they were fighting, because for me at first when they first met each other, um, like you knew there was gonna be tension, but at the same time, like I guess for me it's like he let him go in the first movie. Like he honored his deal, and with Vin Diesel being such a stickler on like family and these like unwritten codes,
Mm-hmm.
I thought there would be some sort of something there, but yeah, no. Dominic did not hold back on this one, that's for sure.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and the thing is, one of the things they set up in the very first movie is Dom has a temper. Yo, is that our boy Mother's Milk? It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, he is.
Yeah. But yeah, they set up Dom has a temper. Like had a temper, still has a temper. And so he went nuts when Letty was seemingly killed. He went absolutely nuts. He absolutely lost it, with good reason.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was one of those things when he finds out that Brian had something to do with it.
Yep.
I feel like
That
the
was
only
it.
reason he doesn't kill Brian is because he begins to blame himself, because Brian immediately is like, she just wanted you to come home. She was doing it to clear your name. And instantly he's just like, I want to kill you right now, but I get it, because he would have probably done the exact same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up, because it wasn't just that they just all of a sudden just went for blows. Like the whole entire time, like Dom was like, stay out of my way, stay out of my way. I got something I got to do. And like Brown's like, no, I can help you take this out. And then when Dom finds out that he was working with Letty and running her, like that was the moment where I was kind of like, this has been a long time coming. Because even though, Brian let him go technically, and he had to deal with the consequences of that, but Dom lost everything. Like he lost his livelihood, he lost his family, or whatever connective tissue it was. It's gone now, and that's still connected to Brian at the end of the day. And they never really truly resolved that. And then on top of that, now it possibly is another casualty. In addition to, what was the kid's name that died?
Jesse.
The first one.
Jesse.
And I think that switch in his head just flipped. Like he was just like, oh heck no, bro. Like I've had enough of this. And I think you're right, Keaton. I think that this whole entire movie, it was building up because all this anger was welled up, and he didn't have any way of
Hmm.
dealing with it at all.
Hmm.
And I love that. I think that emotional part of that was one of the things that I appreciated about this one and Five for two different reasons. The
Yeah,
emotional side of it.
yeah. It was definitely a lot of emotion, and because yeah, you lost Letty, which you didn't really get a chance to get too attached to her because you saw her in the first movie and then you saw her at the beginning of this one. And so losing her, it was upsetting, but it wasn't like gut wrenching,
Yeah.
right? Because it wasn't like, oh, they've been with us. We've been with them this whole time. It was like we had her in the first movie and she was just this tough, rough around the edges chick who's really cool and she's a good racer and a badass. And then you see her at the beginning of this one and it's like she's still got nothing but love for Dom, and then they kill her off and it's
Yep.
like, man, that sucks. That really, really sucks. But it wasn't one of those things where it was like, oh, this was my favorite character. Like I wasn't too gut wrenched to still get into the movie. Because I
Yeah.
feel like if they had like let us get too attached to her and then killed her, it would have been hard to get attached to the movie. Like, ugh, that
Yeah.
sucks. That really sucks. Right.
Yeah, and that is
Uh
something they have the people that they do end up killing off in this movie. They do have a way of you connect with them a little bit, but
mhm.
when they die, you're kind of like, oh, like okay, like you're okay with it. It's not like if, and I'm saying it now, if it happens, I'm gonna be pissed. But like if Vin Diesel dies in this next one, or if Hans
That's not gonna
officially
happen.
dies in this, like
I don't think
I'm
they'll
gonna
do
be
it.
irate. But
I don't think they'll do
it's yeah, it's just one of those things where like they give you just enough to feel for these characters,
right.
and then like you kind of go away. So like when Jesse died, like they gave you enough in the first one with
That was
them,
rough.
and then he dies, and you're kind of like, oh, that sucks, because you at least still have some connection with them, but it's not
Yeah.
like
I'm still
they
waiting for him to show up again. Nobody stays dead and say, I'm waiting for my man to roll up in a wheelchair or something, and it's like,
see,
yo, it's our boy. Like,
I'm still waiting for Johnny Tran to come back.
dude, right? Him and Lance in them tight
Yes.
pants. Oh yeah.
Hey, was there ever any connection between and Day or anybody from Tokyo Drift? Was there ever any kind
I
of
don't
connection between them?
I don't think so. I don't think they ever did. I don't
Okay.
think they ever did that. I think they were just completely I think they were completely unrelated.
Okay. I was curious.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's fair because I thought about it. I'm like, man, they could potentially link them, especially because I feel like you saw Lance fall off the bike, but you didn't see him die. And
Yeah.
then
No,
there
it
was
didn't.
another, and then in that first movie, there was also another member of Dom's crew that we just haven't seen. I think his name was Leon.
Yep.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
we don't know what happened to Leon. He just kind of
Yeah.
disappeared
He had
disappeared
that
to
famous line, "Street clothes, pizza boy."
yeah.
Oh, I know these movies too well. This is bad. This is
That was
bad.
nah, man, nah, dude. I like honestly, it was funny because when y'all said we're reviewing them, I'm like, I don't even need to rewatch them. Like, this is my Lord of the Rings, this is my Harry Potter, whatever you want to call it. Like, I know this series. There's a boy.
Yep, and there he is with his skyline. Ugh.
Yeah, but yeah. So the fourth one was really cool because, like I said, like Brian Tyler did the score once again, and he gave us some pretty iconic themes that you will honestly, if you're listening for it, you'll rehear throughout the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. You will kind of slightly rehear some of those reused tracks throughout, and so I also really love the score for this one, and then how it's basically set up. Like one of the moments that stick out is when Mia is talking to Brian, and I can't remember how she says it. She's like, "Are you sure that you're the good guy or are you the bad guy?" Like basically she's like, "Look, do you even know where you stand?" And that's what kind
Yeah.
of first gives Brian that hint, like, what am I doing? I love these people. This isn't. And when Dom still gets locked up at the end after they take down Braga,
Yep.
he's like, all right, the system is rigged. This isn't
Yeah.
fair. I'm gonna
Yeah.
take it into my own hands.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the thing that she was saying was, are you the good guy pretending to be the bad guy, or the
Yeah.
bad guy pretending to be the good guy?
That's the line. Thank you.
Yeah, because that one hit me too when she said that. Now this one also had, I think it was this one had the cool like cave scene where he had like his WRX, like,
Yep.
and they were just going through all that like tunneling system and all that.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, this one is you get introduced to Braga, who's just like evil drug dealer. So they kind of, it was almost kind of, it had the same kind of villain as Too Fast, Too Furious, where it's just like this drug dealer and he's trying to move his drugs across borders or where they need to go. And this guy's just running this scheme where it's like, if you win a race, you get to work for me, and then I shoot you. And
Yeah.
you would have thought after like 2 rounds of this happening, they would have been like, actually, I don't want to race in this guy's races anymore. You never see any of them ever again. Like,
Yep.
you would think they would have picked up on it, but they're like, nah, I'm trying to get this bread. Like, and but yeah, I enjoyed the fourth one. The next one is probably my favorite in the series, though.
Yeah.
Fast Five.
No,
Fast Five.
Fast Five was
Fast
dope.
Five. Incredible.
And all I can
Incredible.
say about this one is that bank heist.
Right.
That
It was,
you just can't get like that one was just dope.
and another thing too is this one they really did. They were like, we're gonna bring back everybody. We're bringing in Gal Gadot from the fourth one. We're bringing back Han from the second one. From the third one, we're bringing back Tyrese and Ludacris from the second one. And so it was almost like a Magnificent Seven meets Ocean's 11
Yeah.
with
Well,
V8s. Like it was just, yeah, it was
This was
awesome.
like their Avengers. Like when you think about it, every single main character kind of joined up.
Hold on a
this
second.
one.
I will be right back.
Yeah, you good. You good. So yeah, this one was dope for me. This one's also way up there. And then secret known fact on this one, another fun little just random plug. So that whole bank heist scene that was filmed in Puerto Rico. And I actually,
Oh, really?
yeah, I actually know like the streets where they're kind of running through and all that. Like I've been on those streets before, so it's just kind of neat. Just kind of neat. But no, but this one was definitely, I think, what kind of elevated this franchise from like your normal like car type movies just into these like, I don't want to call them like Mission Impossible-esque movie, but you know, everything just kept getting elevated and elevated. But the way that they did a lot of the stuff in this movie, I thought was so good. And even with the cars in this movie, like a lot of the cars were fantastic. Like that they ended up using.
Yeah.
You know, so it's, you know, I've always liked that. In this one, I do believe, I think this is one of the first ones that introduced like exotics, because I believe Han on this one ends up driving a Lexus LFA, which is definitely a ridiculously cool car. But
yes.
you know,
I was talking about at the end.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that car! I looked at that thing when she was driving away with Gal Gadot's character. I was like, oh my gosh, what is this?
Yes, and that is probably to this day. I'm trying to think because I love cars too much. So Lexus built that car, and they spent so much time like R&D on it. It probably has the nicest sounding motor ever. Like it is, it's spectacular. Yeah, like no matter how you look at that car, it's beautiful. Um, Something that this movie still continues to do, which we were talking about before, is a lot of the cars in this movie were still attainable cars. So some of the main cars, I know they had like the WRX, the Chargers were being introduced in this movie because that's, I think, when I think Dodge had a big part of this movie in
Yeah, they
terms of
did.
like sponsoring it because the Chargers were super big into it. I know in the beginning of this one, I believe is when they were stealing, I guess, some of the cars in like some of the more fancy cars because they had like a Ford GT and all that, but they only showed up for like a few milliseconds. But this one was, yeah, this one I think was awesome. Like I would equate this as like the first Avengers movie where all your superheroes and all like your car people kind of get together and solve the crime, do what they need to, for sure.
Yeah, so the funny thing about this, and you guys are on the money. I mean, I completely agree. Like, this is one of the best, of the franchise. The weird
Yeah.
thing is, it has the least amount of racing in it, but it is probably the most entertaining out of any of them because the other thing they do in this one that I appreciate more so than even though the other ones they continue to escalate and build and build and build, it wasn't a lot of CG. A lot of this stuff was just practical.
Yep.
Like, I appreciate it so much that they literally were dragging around. I think they showed the behind the scenes. Like, sometimes it was actually a car that was actually inside the safe or whatever, kind of maneuvering around. But then sometimes they were actually dragging something around. Like, the fact that so much practical effects were going on,
Yeah.
so much fight choreography was going on. We haven't even talked about The Rock was introduced into this yet.
Yeah.
I have been waiting years, and this is fan casting. Back in the day when everybody was like, "Yo, you know who would be really cool? Man, Vin Diesel is like Eddie Brock or something stupid like that." Or like, "Man, no, maybe The Rock should be this character." Like, oh well, this movie has got Vin Diesel and The Rock, and they're fighting.
Yep.
What does this mean? You're about to find out because they
Yep.
they
And
give
this
you
is
a raw, unadulterated fight. Like, they don't hold back at
yeah.
all. And I love the build up because the whole entire time, The Rock was just talking crap to Vin the whole entire time. He's like, "Boy,
Yep.
get over here!" Like, I was like, "Hold up, wait, what did he say?" And like, Vin Diesel's like, "We in Brazil, bro." No, look, it was so much build up that I was like, "All right, one last thing he's got to do. He's got to wreck his car." And as soon as he wrecked this man's car, I was like, "They about to fight."
They're
And
about to go in.
I loved how well they choreographed that fight, dude. Like, I don't know, something about that that's iconic. There's some fights that you never forget, like, I don't know, Brad Pitt and Eric Bana and Troy, or I don't know, Neo versus whatever. But this was an iconic fight that nobody ever brings back up. But they put a lot of work into that fight, bro. Like,
Yeah.
choreography was just amazing.
Oh yeah, it was good. And like, God, The Rock got in shape for this movie. Good Lord, he was huge. Like, like honestly, when you look at him, I was like, yo, Vin Diesel about to lose. He about to get thrown through a building. Yeah, that goatee, like that is not a goatee that loses.
Yeah, that's right. That was the first time he wore a goatee like ever, and it scared the crap out of me. I was like,
Yo,
I don't know, man.
yo, them arms
This-
just naturally greasy, like just built. Like,
And that scene that was showing right before this, that scene was so, like, I remember in the movie theaters when, like, Hobbs shows up with his crew and all that, and they think they got him, and him and Brian are just chilling, and Dom is like, "You know what your problem is? You think you're still in America." He's like, "This
This
is
is
Brazil."
Brazil.
Everyone just pulls out their guns.
Bruh. And this chase scene, the first time they meet, the chase scene. Like, I
Yeah,
think the thing about The Rock's character, it ain't even so much that, he was just taunting them. Everybody was like, "Oh yeah, you do not want to get in contact with this man because he will end you." Like,
Yeah,
they were
yes,
all afraid of him. And I was like, what are they gonna do against this guy? Because he's not stopping.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's the Rock. Like, I mean, I was kind of like, I think halfway through the film, I was like, please don't kill this character. Please don't kill this character. Make him go on the good side because we need more of the Rock in this franchise.
And the moment I knew they weren't going to kill him, the moment that they killed his whole team.
Yeah.
When they killed his whole team, it was like, okay, now he's like, I don't even care about Vin Diesel as much no more. I need to kill these people that killed my guys.
Yeah.
And I don't know if y'all had talked about how they brought back Vince in this one already.
No, not yet.
No, he didn't.
Yeah. So yeah, because this one was interesting because so they brought back everybody, but they brought back Vince, who I'd been wondering all along. I'm like, how did he get here? Because I mean, last time we saw him, he got hit with a pump shotgun and airlifted to a hospital after Brian blew his cover. So I was like, I thought he was just in jail. Right?
So I thought in the first one that who got him out of there?
Brian.
I thought they got him to a hospital. I don't think they turned him in though.
No.
I think they just helped him.
When in the first one, Brian goes to Mia.
Yeah.
And that's when he was like, I'm a cop. Like, where are they? I'm a cop.
Right.
They're coming after them. And then that's when he has that iconic scene where he's kind of like tied up.
Phone. Yeah.
Well, he's tied up on the truck, and then he ends up jumping onto the Supra because they end up like flipping off the T-top on it. And once he stops, that's when it was like, I think Dom rolls up there, and that's when he finds out that he's a cop.
Because he's radioing in for help. And it's like, this is Officer Brian O'Connor. And they come in and they because he got shot with the shotgun. So they airlifted him out of there. Yeah, he still had like the scars on his arm from where he got like wrapped up. It was it was a crazy scene. And so it was interesting that they brought him back. When they did bring him back, though, the way he was acting and stuff, I'm like, I got a feeling we found our sacrificial lamb for this. Yeah, because I had a bad feeling because Vince always hated Brian with a passion.
Yeah.
But one of the scenes that sticks out to me, man, because they went on another level with these stunts when they drive the car off the cliff and Brian and Vin are basically like surfing this car down as it flies into the water. I'm like, man, what in the world? Like, this is insane.
Yeah, well, I think this is, and Sam, you actually bring a good point, because I think this is the first movie where there really wasn't a lot of, the cars weren't the main characters. Like, this is when they actually became like action heroes in this movie.
Yep.
But yeah, that scene was dope.
Yeah, this was a cool scene. And then when they bring the whole gang back together, and this is the first time, because you knew like Tej was just this cool dude in Miami. You didn't know he was like the best circuit man or hacker that there was. And I honestly, it was funny, like I didn't even know. I'm like, so they brought back Gal Gadot, and I guess they gave her a cool backstory for this one, because you really didn't know much about her outside of her working for Braga and getting saved in the fourth movie. But in this fifth one, it's like she's this badass. She's good with combat, and she just has all these other skills that she brings to the table. And then of course Han, he's down for whatever. And then Tyrese, it was good seeing Roman Pierce come back. And so yeah, when they brought everybody back, it was like, oh man, it's about to go down. This is about to be wild. And so like I said, it had like I got like Magnificent Seven vibes along with like Ocean's 11 vibes, because they're trying to pull off this insanely elaborate heist. And it just they took the action to another level, because The Rock is just like testosterone in film form. Like he just he just turns the volume up wherever he wherever he goes, and he was such a charismatic actor. And this one really, they set it up in 4 where it's like family is so important, and then in this 5th one it's like they really just hammer it down. It's like it's all about family, because you find out that Mia's pregnant in this
Yep.
one, and so Dom's ready. He was ready to run away again. He's like, all right, we're gonna split up, I'll see you when I see you. And Mia's like, we can't split up anymore. We can't. We're gonna find a non-extradition country, and we're just gonna go live here. But we can't split up because I'm about to have a baby, and you're gonna be an uncle. So what we gonna do? What's it gonna be? We need to figure something out. And then this one was also interesting because you get backstory about Brian's father and how his father was like a dirty cop, and you find out more about like Brian and why he is the way he is with things. And so this one was just really good as far as setting up everything going forward. And because even at the end, you're still wondering, okay, how does Han end up in Tokyo? And you start getting the feeling it's like, okay, if they pull this off, he said in the 3rd one, he said Tokyo was kind of like his Mexico, where he's making a run for the border after the big robbery. It's like, is this how he ends up in Tokyo?
Yeah.
And so it was, Fast 5. It was really cool because at the end, you see, man, the last scene after they crack the vault, and Danza Kuduro starts playing.
Yeah.
That scene is just so good because it's like, man, they got away with the money. They're all living their best life. Like, it's just perfect. Like, that scene is just so good. The only thing that they don't really explain is
Wait, was Eva Mendes at the end of this?
Yeah, this is the one that
Yes.
she
Post-credits.
does her,
With The Rock?
her, I guess, the sneak
Post credits. Yep.
that he's
It's either
alive.
post credits or mid credits. Yeah, she pops back up. But what's interesting is because they all just pulled off this heist, but the only ones that escaped to a non-extradition country are Dom, Brian, and Mia. The other guys are just wherever.
Oh no,
because
and Elena.
Yep.
Remember the?
yeah, that's right. Elena got with Dom in this one. That's
Yep.
right.
Yep.
She stayed with him.
Yep.
Good shot. Good shot right there. Good angle.
I know who that is.
Good shot. Good shot. Yeah, really. It's a lot of act, a lot of drama in this scene.
Right there.
Yeah. Also good. Let me just set my desktop background real quick.
Save this one
Just
real.
keep that right there for a second. Let me stop.
No, but yeah. So this one. So okay. So I think we can all agree that this one's probably one of our tops then for sure.
Definitely.
Yes. So the thing is, for me with this film, and I gotta leave soon because I gotta get some sleep. I would love to stay with y'all, but the thing about this one is that I remember when this came out, and people had never even seen the first one or any of them, and they were like, "This movie is so freaking amazing! Wait? What happened here? I need to know more." And like, I had people telling me, should I go back and watch the originals? I was like, yeah, go back and see them.
Definitely.
You know,
Yes.
and I was kind of just like, the reality is that a lot of people started with this film and then went back and then went forward, and it still worked because Tokyo Drift, lo and behold, actually takes place much later. We didn't know. And I think that the fact that this movie on its own, if you've never seen any of the rest of them, still is an amazing, entertaining film. And it's one of their best they've ever done. It's one of the best iconic action films that a lot of people don't talk about because there's so many of these films. But this is a gem, dude. Like, I really highly enjoyed it. Man, I really want to talk about the sixth one, but I gotta go.
It was also the first one that went over 2 hours. The other ones have been like around the 100-minute mark, and I remember this one being the first one. It was like they're like, we got a lot to squeeze in here.
I did not know that. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was the first one that actually went over 2 hours.
That's crazy.
Interesting. Okay,
Yep.
that's a new. Okay, I did not know that at all.
Yeah. And this last one, this Fast 9, I think is an hour and it's no, it's not. It's 145 minutes. So it's like pushing. It's like right at 2.5 hours. This last one.
I'll take it. I'll take it. All right, then from here, then let's jump right into number 6, and this one is Fast and Furious 6, where they finally
Yes.
go back to a normal naming convention.
Well, this is what they did. They took the Fast and the Furious, and they're like, "What if we just change the nouns
Yeah,
into adjectives?" Right? They're like, "The Fast and the Furious." Is like, okay, those are the people, but now we're gonna
yeah,
be fast and be furious, right? It's like we got an adverb vibe going here. We gonna kick it. We gonna kick it up a notch. Nothing but action. No
yeah.
nouns.
This one was real neat because this one introduced a lot of, I guess, you got to Shaw was put into
Yes.
this one.
They go to London.
Yeah, and once again, yeah. So we go from Brazil back now to London. But yeah, this one had the whole. I think this after starting with this one is when all the characters kind of stick together basically, and you have
Mhm.
like this all-star crew moving forward. Um, so yeah, so this one was definitely another gem. Um,
And this one also still sticking with how they talk about like the themes of each movie because let's see, Fast 5 was more of a chase movie because they're being chased by the Rock the whole time. This one, this one almost is like doing what they're setting them up against themselves because Owen Shaw
yeah,
has a team of guys, has a squad that matches Dom's team, and so it's almost like they're in a chess match against
yes,
each other. And so I thought that was really interesting the way that they did that. And of course, this is also when they bring back Letty.
yep. Because
So
Letty was running with their.
yeah, Letty was running with their squad, and you find out, oh, she actually didn't get shot in the head. He shot the car, and the car exploded, and she flew in a ditch. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't care. Glad she's back. I'm
Yes.
glad she's back. Whatever. Um,
Yeah, and this one also, like, I think this is the one that stuff just started going very, very chaotic, I guess, and very, super duper, like CGI to the max. Because this one, if I recall correctly, Shaw had that little like Indy car that could just flip people basically.
yeah,
That small little car. Um, I think in the last scene, it was when they were, I think, I think it was Tyrese's character whose car was getting hit by like the tank, and he basically just like flies off, jumps into Brian's car. I
yeah,
think Letty at one point, like, she gets thrown off of something, and Dom catches her in the car. Like, this is, I think, when it starts getting very well. Not that the other ones weren't fake, but this one pushed that scale way out there.
yeah, yeah. And I just remember this one being funny because they were was it Brian? Yeah, was it Brian in like riding in that Ford Escort?
Yes.
I thought that was pretty. It's like a freaking Indy car, and like, what in the world is happening right now? Like,
Yeah.
that one was pretty. It was pretty nuts because this is when it's like, okay, they have money now, and like Tej goes and buys all of these cars because the guy's trying like not treat
Yes.
well. And so it was pretty interesting how they did this one. And of course, this whole time with Han being there, and now he's gotten really, really attached with Giselle. And I'm thinking to
Hmm.
myself, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Because she definitely wasn't in Tokyo Drift, right? and of course they kill her off
Yeah.
at the end of this one. So they brought back Letty, but they killed off Giselle. And that really set up some interesting points for me throughout the rest of this series, because of course now, um at the very I believe it's at the very end of this one, you it's like a mid-credit scene, you find out that Han was murdered, and it wasn't
Yeah.
just a car wreck. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, so he was murdered by Deckard Shaw, Owen's brother, and we find out Owen didn't even die, but Deckard is in the picture now. And
Yep.
it's weird because later on they end up setting up Deckard Shaw as like the good guy, and I'm like, nah, his brother killed Giselle, he killed
Yeah.
Han. I don't like these people. I don't like them, and you're not gonna make me like them. And I will temporarily forget about it to watch Hobbs and Shaw, but I'm still pissed off right now.
They're like, but I do not like it.
I don't
No,
like
but
you. I don't like you. No, no, this is
yeah.
not cool. You are not family. Like, like, bro, like, yeah, it was. And so, yeah, it was really interesting seeing that, because at this point, they've started letting you know in these mid-credit scenes what's gonna happen next. Because at the end of Fast Five, it's like, look, Letty's still alive. At the end of this one, it's like, oh, look, Owen Shaw had a older brother, and he's coming for y'all. And that's when you get into uh, Furious 7. And Furious 7 was just very, very different, because we all got our heart broken while they were still filming
Yeah.
Furious 7. Paul Walker was killed in a car wreck of all things. And I mean, that was really difficult for this franchise. And I honestly, personally don't think, I feel like it kind of started peaking here.
Yeah.
Just because, like, Brian was such a central character, and I was honestly surprised when they kept doing them after the seventh one, because I really thought that the seventh one was I thought that was going to be it, but they went everywhere in this one, because I think the seventh one they go to Dubai, and then they
Yep.
come back to Los Angeles, right?
Yeah, they do, because
Yeah.
that's when they start doing like the trade off with Ramsey in the car, where she's just driving off, and they just keep doing kind of all these little tricks and loops. But yeah, no, this one I think, and I want to say, was this the first one that broke the? This one wasn't the first one that broke the $1 billion mark. Or it could have been. Because I know this one was, I think, one of the first ones that with, I guess with, like Paul Walker dying. Like,
Yes,
it
this
just
was the
brought-
first one.
Okay,
Yep.
because it
Was
just
the
brought
first one.
so much, just so much into this movie, like this whole franchise, because you just had people who, I guess, wanted to see what they were going to do with his character, and I thought it was, I thought they did a great job using his brother and like CGIing over his face, but
Yeah.
the way this one ended, like, like it was
I
not
cried
a dry eye in the
big
theater.
tears. I cried
Yeah.
big tears. And honestly, it's funny because, like, if I watch just the seventh one by itself now, it doesn't get me. But if I do like a marathon and watch them all, when I get to the seventh one and that end scene hits, it's just like, oof, this hurts. This hurts.
Yeah. Well, not just that, and it brings it
It's
back.
like, because they say that again.
No, I was gonna say not just that, but it brings it back. I think what was more heartbreaking to me was how it brought it back full circle, where he was driving the white Supra, or a Supra, and Dom was driving the Charger, and as soon as that road splits and you hear that song kick in, you were just like, nope, you're like, it's very dusty here. My allergies are kicking in.
They
You
had
know,
a
and
ton of callbacks in it because they went back. The movie opened. They went back to race wars. You
yep,
saw Hector again. Brian
yeah,
makes the comment about going old school and dropping the car low to go underneath an 18 wheeler, just like in the
mhm,
first movie. Like they had a lot of cool uh, callbacks,
yeah.
and it was just heartbreaking because you see like was this the one where they had just gotten their house back in LA and then it gets blown up at the beginning? Was it this one?
Yes, this is
Yeah.
yeah, because at one point they what was it like? I think Brian is leaving the house and he gets like a phone call or something, or there's a package at the front door or something like that happens. But yeah, this is when when it gets blown up and you know, luckily I think this was where Brian like he closed the minivan door right before, you know, anything tragic happened to the kids. But yeah, this one was gosh, yeah, this one was a heavy one for me, but
Hmm.
for so many other reasons. I think it was just you were so emotionally invested in these characters,
Yeah,
and then to
absolutely.
have one of them, I literally die in real life. It was
Yeah,
just like, oh, you're like,
it was rough.
you know, it's like your superhero died basically. But yeah, this one though was I think this one was good. This one, the only like one of my main critiques about this movie was the trailers for this completely gave away so much of this movie,
It did.
which was so frustrating. Like especially like when they grabbed that Lycan Hypersport and like blew it out of the that Dubai building, like
Yeah,
to
they
show
gave you
that.
that whole scene. Yeah,
Yeah, and you're just like, come on. Like, I could only imagine how dope that would have felt in the theaters, not knowing that was coming.
yeah,
Um, but no, yeah, this was one of the first ones where I was just like, man, like, you gave so much away. But I did enjoy the, I guess, Deckler, you know, like Jason Statham's character. Uh,
yeah. Deckard
the
Shaw. Yeah,
yeah, like I definitely enjoyed all of his interactions and especially him and The Rock's interaction.
yeah,
And even I think this one probably more than and maybe I could be wrong, but this one I think Tyrese's like Roman and Tej's character, I think this was where they gelled the absolute best.
yeah,
In terms of like going back and forth and just understanding each other's character to the core, basically.
yeah,
Because you know, even when they first meet Ramsey and they were kind of going like, you know, trying to holler or and all that, just the
yeah.
way that they were going about it, like, yeah, this one was such a good one. But then again, this one also I think was way over the top. Um,
Hmm.
but you kind
Oh
of
yeah. When because you got The Rock and he's like ripping a minigun off a Predator drone and like
yes,
yeah, oh yeah, Fast Seven was insane, especially like at the beginning. The fight between him and Deckard Shaw at the beginning of this one was pretty awesome, especially when you see him put Jason Statham in the rock bottom through the glass table.
and that well the way that they filmed that where like the camera kind of spins with him like
Yeah,
doing that was so dope,
it
like
was
i
cool.
i
It was
love
really
that.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
no,
was
this
pretty
one,
cool how they did that.
yeah, this one was definitely a highlight, and this one also introduced Kurt Russell's character, Mr. Nobody.
Mr. Nobody, which yeah, and yeah, they did a lot. They did a lot of stuff in this one. I thought it was interesting how they did it because basically now you're going from just being a family looking out for yourself and you're moving way into, oh, now we're just government agents working almost like mercenary-esque characters.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's so much. It's a lot. It's a lot going on, and it's but this is when they go way over the top and they're like, I mean, we're not going to take ourselves too seriously. And so The Rock is
yep,
going to pick up this Predator drone minigun and he's going to go down the street saving the day with it. And Deckard Shaw and Toretto are going to fight with wrenches, and it's going to be
Yeah,
cool because I
wrenches
think
and car
someone
parts.
wants to see it. And somehow Brian's going to beat Tony Jaa, and we're not going to talk about it anymore.
Yeah,
Uh, it's like, I mean, all right, sure, whatever you say. Yeah, sure, he beat Tony Jaa. Whatever, all right, that's
yep.
fine.
No, this one I think was,
Just let it go.
yeah, this is like the officially like, like physics and everything just went out the window. They just
Nothing.
they just did not
Nothing.
care, which I'm all for. Like this is definitely one of those guilty pleasures of mine. Any of these movies, whenever they pop in, I can literally just sit and watch them. Um, what's like the only thing that I wish they would have done more with these movies, or like especially with this one and 8. I wish like we would see more of like Owen Shaw and like Deckard Shaw. Like it would be so neat to see that dynamic come out. Because you really like, Owen Shaw had such a big presence in the previous movie, and then I think
Hmm.
in this one, is it this one that he's in the hospital for basically like that first scene?
This one, he's just in the hospital
Yeah,
because Deckard Shaw went to visit him and tore this whole hospital
hospital.
apart
Yeah,
visiting him. And that's one of my biggest complaints about the whole Hobbs and Shaw thing, because they set Deckard Shaw up as like a complete villain. Like, it's not like a redeeming quality where it's like, oh, it's just his little brother. Like, it's just his little brother, but Deckard Shaw's a bastard. Like,
yeah,
you do not like him. And I liked it because it's like, man, I get to see Jason Statham be like a legit villain. And this
yeah.
is awesome. And then they still just kind of do away with it later on. And it's like, family. And I'm like, he killed Han. His brother killed Giselle. They are not family. Like, we don't have to do this.
Like
uh,
and hopefully, because I think this is the last one that we see anything of Owen Shaw, because I don't think he's not in Fast 8, is he?
he is. Him and his brother rescue Dom's baby on the plane.
That's right.
They both show up together to
I forgot.
rescue their baby because they Dom talks to their mother.
Mom, yeah, okay. I forgot about that. No, you're 100% correct.
Yeah. And so, yeah, they really, I was, if we're moving on to what are the scenes that stick out to you from the seventh one before we move on to 8?
Oh gosh. This one just went over the top so much. So there's like, the car through the building. I think that's iconic. Just a staple for that one. And I think this one also. I think this one, when they were shooting the cars out of the big like 747 like military style.
Hmm.
And I just the to me it was just it fits like Tyrese's character Rome, where like they're all doing like their business and all this, and he's just kind of like floating away, just doing his own thing until he finally like lands. But no, this one I would think everything that happened in Abu Dhabi was just phenomenal. Um, yeah, I would say those were my highlights. And then the last scene, especially like with The Rock picking up. Actually, no, the fight between uh, Vin Diesel's character Dom and Jason Statham, where basically it's like a wrench versus like whatever car part. I don't know that Deckler had, but that scene was also really good.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
about with you?
I just, man, the last scene, it just like that, it just tears me up because like they almost just broke character at the end of that movie and were like, Paul's dead and he needs to be celebrated, and so we're gonna, because they didn't even try and shy away from the fact that this person has passed. Like it was one of those things like, yeah, look, he's retiring to be with his family. But that was not the emotion of
Yeah.
a retirement party that they gave you. It was, we're all hurting right now. Like even you could see all the actors and actresses when they would cut to them, it was like they're not looking at someone that they're happy for that's retired. They're hurting just like we all were when we got that news that
Yep.
Paul Walker had passed away. Like I remember crying my eyeballs out in that theater at that part, and the song was so powerful. It was so good. And I remember me and my wife were talking about it, and we spent the longest time. I was like, this song will probably get nominated for an Oscar. And it didn't even get nominated because I
Yeah.
don't think the Academy even watched the movie. I don't think any of the Academy members even watched Fast and Furious 7. And so it never even got nominated. And I feel
Yeah.
like that song should have.
I mean,
I really, really do.
it's very rare when like a song it like supersedes the movie in
Yeah,
such a perfect way,
yeah,
and that song encompassed, at least from my point, like exactly how you felt, like in that scene where it's like, we'll see you again.
yeah,
And just the way that they faded out in the movie, because it's, I mean, it's so vivid to me, like, you just kind of see him make that left turn, and then the screen, it's almost like it's going to heaven because it just turns to white, and you're just like, ugh, like just gutted. But yeah, that one was, yeah, I'll agree on that one, man.
it's
And
rough.
now dude, we've rounded out, we're now on 8. This is awesome.
Yeah, we're making it through. I knew it was going to take a little while though, because I'm like, it's a lot to break down
It
in these
is.
movies. It is. Now, this I'm not going into the eighth one. I'm not going to lie. I went into it not excited, just because uh, they said they weren't going to kill off Brian's character, which it I understand the symbolic reasons to not kill off his character, but it doesn't make sense in the franchise that's built around family for the family to be going through something and him to not be there, right?
Yeah.
Like, and especially when he's one of their big guns, he's one of the main guys in the series, for them to be like, oh, it's all about family, and then he's just nowhere to be found at all. Like they don't even call him. You hear nothing. It doesn't make sense at all. It
Yeah.
just it doesn't. And the fact that they continued making these was just weird, because at first I was like, do you recast? Which that would be difficult to do, or do you kill off his character? I feel like both of those made more sense than he's out there, he's just not helping us. And
Almost
he's our
like
best friend and he's our
yep.
family and he's just not there.
And I think that's why they brought in Eastwood. What's his Scott Eastwood. I
Yeah,
think they were hoping that he would kind of become that new like babyface character for the
right.
franchise, and I don't think people really took to it, because it,
Now,
it for
yeah,
me it's, and I agree with you. I think it's one of those where you have to address it in some shape, way, or form.
right.
Either kill him off 100%, and just, oh, tragic accident, like something. Um, but yeah, because it is weird when you talk about how this whole franchise focuses so much on family, and yet you're leaving someone officially out and all that, and it's very interesting. And this one, obviously, this one kicks off, I guess more with Dom and Letty in Cuba, if I recall correctly. They were doing like the street racing, and it was like his cousin, you
Super
know,
over the top.
yeah, his cousin was there, and all that, like, and they're racing for like the cars and all that. So it's just it's very. I think this one, at least what I was expecting was once Brian died and like seven happened, mentally I thought they were just gonna break up and do like almost like mini series. So like Hobbs and Shaw, you'll have one dedicated just with Hans. You'll have your own little like comedic
Right.
duo with like Ludacris and Tyrese,
Right.
almost like a cop drama, with The Rock only, if case like Shabs, decided to keep going. So it's like I was looking at it that way, and so this one did throw me off because I didn't. I think I'm with you. I think a lot of people were very questionable with this. Like, is this going to be any good, and will this work without Brian basically being
Right.
in it? And you know, I think the more I watch this one, the more I've enjoyed it. But it definitely was, I think for me, like the first rough one where you knew like Brian's not going to be in this one.
Yeah. And I just, yeah, and it just didn't. I was honestly so upset still about it that I went into it not really wanting to like it. And so I ended up not really liking it. The action sequences were there. It was just too many questions because they're like, oh, look, the Shaw saved Dom's kid. And we made sure to kill off Dom's baby mama because
Yeah,
now it's just clean and easy because Letty's in the picture. And like all of these things, I'm like, this just it just felt sloppy. It
yeah,
felt very, very sloppy and it was frustrating because like Brian's not there, Mia's not there, and it's like they should be, but they're just not.
yeah,
And there's no reason about it. And then look, the Shaws saved the kids, so now they're good guys. And I'm like, no, the hell they're not. They
yeah,
just no, they're not. Like, did you see what happened to Han? Giselle's dead. Like, they are not good guys. And so I'm really interested in seeing what happens in this next movie that
yeah,
Han's suddenly back. And I'm honestly wondering if that leaves the door open for Giselle to still be alive. I don't know I don't know what happens now. And so I'm ready to see this next one, I guess. Um, I'm just not going into it with as much emotion as I did for any of the first seven movies because I still just I'm in kind of a sore place. Like they killed off Brian. Paul Walker actually passed away and they didn't kill off Brian, and so you're just supposed to believe he's just not there for his entire family. It almost disgraces his character.
yeah.
Especially because you can't say, oh, it's because he's raising his family, because the whole center point for the eighth movie was Dom's baby. And so you can't say that that's the only reason he's not there. And so it just
Well, not just that, but I think what throws me off even more is that and it's funny. I feel like we both have like bypassed this, eight and just jumping into nine. But in nine, Mia's in the movie, and for me, I'm like, how are you gonna like let if this was real life and like you were going through all this stuff? It's like, how will you let your wife go, but you won't go to like
right.
defend your
it
peoples?
it doesn't make any sense. And honestly, I would have been more open to the idea of the eighth movie had they just it would have hurt, but giving Brian an actual send
Ending,
off.
yeah,
And if you're not gonna kill him off, it people would not like it, but just recast him. Honestly, use his brother or something. Recast
or
him because
yeah, like come up because his brother in real life looks very similar to him.
Yeah.
So like
They
you could even have something where like, he gets killed off by, let's say what's Charlene's character? Cypher.
right.
He gets killed off by Cypher, and now like his brother comes into the picture who like no one really knew. It could be like, long lost brother type of thing. Cause I mean in
Like
this
they're
next
doing with
one,
John Cena.
yeah. And it could be almost like the same thing where
Yeah.
you're just like, oh crap. And at least that would make a little bit more sense. And then like, you know, obviously you let him in because he's like the uncle to, Mia's baby. And obviously that kind of puts him into that whole family. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. And I hope, God, do I hope like the whole Hans thing coming back. I hope it's not like another Letty thing where it's like amnesia or, like, oh, that wasn't really me. Like, that was someone else in the car, and it just it that would be a disservice. So I hope.
Do you do you think it's going to have something to do with Mr. Nobody, like super secret agent type stuff?
That's an easy out, because if it did, he would have, in the previous mission, he would have been involved.
Exactly. That's the thing. And so I'm really waiting to see how they handle this, because it's like either way it just feels sloppy.
Yeah.
Either
And
way it feels sloppy. And so I don't know. Like I will watch it for the good mindless action, but I don't really have hope as far as the narrative and the theme goes. Like, how are you going to say it's about family and this dude's just been alive this whole time and no one knows why? And Brian's
yeah.
been alive this whole time and he's nowhere to be found. And like, it just, it's just kind of getting, it's, I think they've peaked and they're definitely on their way back down. And I hope they finish it out before it hits rock bottom.
Literally.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's so God.
no i
Never mind. They should have stopped at like seven. Then they should have stopped at like seven.
i,
Like
I
since
think
yeah,
I think the only thing I'm like truly looking forward to is that Justin Lin is going to be directing this new one. I think he's doing this one and the next one, because
yes,
I
he
think
is.
they're ending it with 10. And when you kind of look at like throughout all the movies, like the ones that I gravitate to the most, other than the first one, are the ones that Justin Lin has done. Like those are the ones that I've really enjoyed. So I'm hoping with him kind of finishing this story arc, that it culminates in a nice way.
So right
Um
now, yeah, right now what they're saying is, I think they're saying that there's going to be a 10th one, and then there's going to be an 11th one, and the 11th one is going to be the last one.
okay, so they're probably it's almost I feel every franchise does it where like whatever the last movie is, they're just going to split into two. Like Harry Potter, Hunger Games style. They'll just make it a very long, a four
So it's
hour
going to be
long
like,
movie.
so you think 10 and 11 should be are going to be the same movie, more or less?
Yeah, it'll leave us with like some type of cliffhanger just to make us, finish it off. Because I think after that, if I recall correctly, there has to be another Hobbs and Shaw, because that one was just too good to not,
Yeah,
just from
I do think they'll definitely do another Hobbs
yeah,
and Shaw.
just from the way they're doing that. And I know I've been hearing tons about an all girl version of Fast and Furious. So like Letty, Mia, Ramsey, like all the female characters
Hmm.
supposedly are in talks to doing their own version of it.
So
Um,
with Hobbs and Shaw, is Jason Statham in Fast 9 at all? Is he cast? Was he cast in this one?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so, because I think part of like a lot of the drama, I believe, as soon as The Rock and like when Jason Statham and Dwayne Johnson went and did that, like Hobbs and Shaw, that caused a lot of like internal, I guess, drama, for better lack of
Hmm.
terms, because they just viewed it as that's just a lot of money in my pocket. And a lot of the other characters were taking it very personally, because I believe in the, I want to say it was in the eighth movie, there's really not too many scenes where The Rock and Vin Diesel are together. Like they legit don't like each other.
Wow.
So yeah, so I don't think they either one of them. Is The Rock in? No, actually, I don't think. Let me pull up IMDb because I don't even think the.
The Rock
Yeah,
is in
the.
Fast 9.
I don't think he is. He's not.
Oh
Well, at
wow.
least in the quick, like looking at the cast, um, I don't see the Rock at all. Because I know like they hate each other. I don't know why. I don't know what the whole like background is. Because I remember that was a
Hmm.
huge drama thing that was coming out. I think while Seven was filming, because Seven
Hmm.
came out, then came Hobbs and Shaw, and then Eight came out, if I remember correctly, or maybe not.
Gotcha. And see,
Ugh.
Hobbs and Shaw can end up being its own franchise because I mean, they brought
Yeah,
in Ryan Reynolds and Kevin Hart. Like that can be
you have
that
endless
series could
amounts of
really
fun there.
be. Yeah, they could really have some fun with that.
Yeah, because I think that will be the the interesting part. So I think for me it's I'm definitely I'm looking forward to how they're going to introduce John Cena's character because with all this talk about family and all of a sudden him being like long lost brother
Uh,
who no one's ever talked about, like
doesn't make sense, Jorge. Doesn't make
yeah,
sense.
that one is just is weird for me.
It
But
doesn't
no,
make sense at all.
yeah, so there's a whole bunch of things that they're introducing in this one where I'm like, huh, like this will be very interesting.
Huh. Honestly, I say that I said that a lot watching that trailer. Like,
Yeah.
huh. And then that very last scene when you see a car getting shot in space, I'm like, okay, they've given in to the memes. They've given in completely to all of the
Yes.
memes, and I've already started laughing at the latest memes that people have been making about the Fast and Furious crossing over with Jurassic World, and
World,
I'm like, here we go, here we
you know
go.
what? It wouldn't surprise me. You can
Oh
see
God,
that them in like battling King Kong next or Godzilla. No, but it's interesting though because I do wonder, depending on how this movie does, it you gotta I guess from a studio's perspective, if you have $1 billion cash cow, can you really just stop it?
no, and I don't think that they will because honestly, they're making so much money. But I think what's going to happen though, I think they might end up having to do what you say, like almost miniseries esque movies, because these actors, I mean, a lot of them they don't like each other, and it's gonna the story is just gonna fizzle out.
Mm,
Um, it's already started to fizzle big time, even with them bringing in, I mean, big name actors, Charlize Theron,
yeah.
Idris Elba, Jason
Yes.
Statham, Helen Mirren, right? Like they're
Yeah.
bringing in all of these like big name people for these roles, and it's like, okay, that's really cool, and it definitely puts butts in the theater, but
It makes you wonder, like, why are you picking up these ginormous names
right,
just to throw them in there? No, but you know,
right,
I am a true fanboy of this series, so
same.
I am very excited to see it.
Oh yeah,
I
I'll
am
be right there. I'll be right in
yeah,
there.
it's I'm super stoked. What I will say is, from if they do end up breaking this up, let's say 10 11 is the last one. If they do start breaking up into little mini series, you could do trilogies for quite some time
You
because you could
could.
have the Hob and Shop trilogy. Realistically, I would love, God, please, studios, if you're watching this, give me a Roman and Tess. Like, shoot, you can make that a sitcom, and I would watch that.
You could. could make that a
Like,
sitcom.
you know,
Yes.
that you just
Just
have
send them
so
back
many.
to Miami.
Yeah.
Send them
Yes.
back to Miami. Like that would be, yeah, I'd watch the hell out of that. I would.
Yeah. So it's like you just have so many options to do, but no, I'm super stoked. I do wonder, I guess what the big reveal is in this movie, because you already
Yeah.
kind of blew your load showing
Han
Hans is back.
and
Because if you
telling
wouldn't have,
everybody who John Cena is too.
yeah, like if you wouldn't have done that, like, and I guess this is where like I've stopped watching a lot of these trailers. Like I think I watched the first trailer and I've like laid low because after seven ruined everything for me, like trailer wise. I'm like I'm trying to keep it steady because yeah, like what's the big surprise in this movie? And I
Hmm.
literally can't think of anything.
Yeah, I don't
But
know.
we'll see.
Because I mean, they even showed the car going into space, and so I'm really wondering with a family thing. I can't think of why they would suddenly introduce a secret brother that apparently Dom has always known about. Like
Yeah.
it seems like he's always known about it and just never talked about it. I'm like, man, all of these graces said, all of these coronas shared,
Yeah. And
and
never
this
once mention of like, oh hey, how's your brother?
right. Like you told Brian your deepest, darkest secret 5 days after meeting him. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, you're taking my sister out for a
So,
date. Let me
yeah.
tell you about my whole family. And it's like, it's not like you're this huge secretive guy. And all of a sudden it's like, yeah, everything's about family
Yeah.
except for my giant baby brother.
Yes. I will say though, if they somehow manage to play their cards right, seeing a John Cena and a Rock real fight, not like WWE style fight, but actually seeing them fight, that would be
Man,
awesome. 'Cause you just
listen,
have,
one of my absolute favorite WrestleManias was the first time The Rock and John Cena fought for the title in the main event. And John Cena was actually the heel. He's hardly ever the heel, but he
yep,
was like almost the heel in that one. And he tries to hit The Rock with the people's elbow, and The Rock pops up and hits him with a rock bottom. Like absolute pandemonium. Me and my friends, we got together and watched that WrestleMania, and we lost it. Like you would have thought it was 100% real the way we
yeah,
lost it at that. Like it was just so good.
yeah. No,
uh,
I am a wrestling, like, you know, fan, huge fan. So for me, yeah, that's one of those things where I'm like, oh, this could work really well because they have history. They obviously know how each other moves and works with each other. So that would be awesome.
Also,
One thing,
Roman Reigns plays The Rock's brother
oh my goodness,
in Hobbs
yes,
and Shaw.
I
Yeah,
forgot all about Roman Reigns in that movie.
yeah. And so yeah,
Now,
it's
so let me ask you a question, and it's something that has kind of been bugging me, and it's going real deep. So just stay with me here.
all right. I'm with you.
So, Hans is driving a Supra in this new movie. The
Okay.
Supra happens to be orange in this movie, and I don't know why, but I'm like, no, there should only be one orange Supra, like
Right.
ever, period.
Right.
Like you can put him in like shoot an RX-8 for all I care. Like, do not put
Yeah.
him in a like the Supra is like Brian's car. It's like a Charger. When you see a Charger, you're like, that's Dom. And
Right.
for me, like I've seen that, and I'm kind of like, oh, are they pushing Hans to be the new like Brian? And maybe I'm
Mm,
thinking way too into it. But yeah, that's been my for me. I'm just like, I don't like that. I
I
don't like that.
That oh wow, that is I didn't even catch the orange Supra. I don't think that Han is gonna be the new main character because I have a feeling that he's going to end up just reuniting with the Tokyo crew because honestly, I think I highly doubt they know that Han's been alive this whole time unless he's been there because we know Lucas Black is in this one and a couple of the other Tokyo Drift
Yeah,
guys.
the Asian dude who
Yeah, the mechanic. Yeah,
yeah. So he's in it. Yeah, actually,
they're in it.
I didn't
And
even think
so,
about that. And Little Bow Wow's in this one too.
is he? Oh wow, yeah. And
Yeah,
so
because
yeah,
I'm
I
looking right
think
now on IMDb, and yeah, so he's in it. Lucas Black is in it. Oh, I didn't even see. And but that's once again that's too easy.
yeah.
Like that's too easy. And like this whole time, like why didn't anyone call Dominic and just be like, hey, by the way, Han's alive. You know, like no stress. Like
Bro, we live in an age of Skype, Discord,
yeah,
Facebook Messenger. Like, there's no reason. There's no
like
reason. I'm telling you, I got a feeling they're going to pull some, like, secret agent stuff. Something to just make everybody mad and roll their eyes. And I have a feeling I'm going to roll my eyes in this movie just as much, if not more, than I rolled my eyes in The Fate of the Furious. Because I remember hearing the name of the movie, The Fate of the Furious, and it was like F8 and rolling my eyes.
yeah, nope.
Like I was like, what are they gonna do with the next one? The Fine and the Furious. Like what are they gonna like I don't know. Like I don't know what they're gonna do. But like these names just make me roll my eyes. I'm like, all right, F9, fine. Sounds like a Brock Lesnar move, but whatever.
Yeah, that's so true. What if that's the secret?
Right? There's no telling. They could do it all. They could do it all.
If Brock Lesnar goes in, I'm sold. I'm sold. Right. He can't act to save his life.
Have you heard any castings about? Have you heard anything about Gal Gadot being cast at all?
No, see, and even through like IMDb, I haven't seen squat on her. But if you think about it, though, and this sounds terrible to say, but not really. She's really been one of the few who've like has made a career, like
she's out of the league.
Yeah, like
she's out of the league. She graduated.
Yeah, she's no longer they in that's league anymore.
Yeah, that's true because Vin Diesel, I feel like lately the movies that he's come out with haven't really been putting butts in the seats. Because what was it, the Last Witch Hunter? I don't think that one did much. What was this last one, the superhero one, Bloodshot? I haven't watched it yet, but I don't think that
you're not missing out on anything.
I didn't hear good things about that one, and so I think right now his biggest money makers is driving cars and saying "I am Groot." Like that's his big. Those are his big.
It's not a bad gig.
It's not. It's the best gig. It's the best gig. He can really phone. Like you talking about a role you can phone in. Yeah. Like honestly, he's gotten to the point where he kind of just phones in Toretto. It's easy. It's like family, and then he just jumps off a bridge or something, and it's like, and it's these movies are easy for him because it's like, what can we do next? We're gonna shoot a car into space. They'll love it.
It's almost like he became like his Triple X character.
Oh God, yes.
That's basically what happened. Fast and Furious, they got cars and they got Triple X, and they were like, this is what this franchise will be moving forward.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, me and some friends actually went to the theater to see The Return of Xander Cage, and like 30 minutes into the movie, we all just kind of looked at each other like, my God, this man loves himself. It's like, we'll give you what you're looking for if you have a 9-way with me and my girlfriend. And I'm like, really?
Like it's just like that.
It's like, I want Vin Diesel's self-confidence. Good Lord.
God, yeah, that is true. So then here we are, 2 hours almost 15 minutes into it.
We
I
did it.
think we I think we've covered everything.
We did. We did. We definitely did. We even chatted a little bit about Hobbs and Shaw. We talked
Yeah.
about the prequels. Um, we
I
talked
think the
about the
only thing we
music.
didn't mention was the Netflix series, the cartoon Netflix series that they have.
Spy Racers,
Yes.
right? Maybe that's
Which
where
has
Han's been. I haven't watched it.
I I was like, I only saw season one. I haven't seen the rest of them, so maybe. But no, but I think this is good. I think once the movie comes out, we all need to get back together
Definitely,
and
absolutely.
shoot up another round of this just to kind of see what our predictions state, like where we
Definitely.
stand.
Yes.
Um, but no, this was awesome, man. It's very hard to find someone who loves this franchise as much
Yeah.
as I do, and
Yeah.
I think I found my equal, and I am so appreciative
Oh
and
yeah.
love
Same here. This was fun, man. I tell you. I hope everyone that's watching this enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, click all those different buttons down there to keep up with us. I'm on Twitter. You can find me at Keaton7. And then, of course, I'm all over the place. If you want to find me, you can. I'm out there.
that is
And yeah,
true.
just let us know what you thought. Let us know if we glossed over something or anything, but
Yeah.
don't post spoilers. Not yet.
Yeah,
Not
no,
yet.
definitely, yeah, especially international crowd. Please do not spoil anything. But I will say, definitely like, subscribe. Let us know what you guys think underneath in the comments. I would love to kind of hear your guys' thoughts if
Definitely.
we were spot on how you guys feel, if we were way off. But either way,
Yeah,
this has been awesome, and I
absolutely.
think yeah. And until next time, I will say peace.
Good night.
Okay.